Good evening, everyone. I am so delighted to welcome you to our Mental Health Awareness Week. And I must say that whether you're live on Zoom or you're live via YouTube, just keep sharing that link right now. This is a time when we want to spend some quality time tonight, where this week has been going so dynamic. So we're hoping that, and how was your day today? It's the middle of the week, and some of us will have had a hectic day today. Just breathe. And I hope that you have accomplished at least one personal goal for today. So keep sharing that link, whether you're here or you're overseas. We are so happy to have you join us tonight. So let's recap a little bit. So we started with a jump start with psychiatrist Dr. Castillo, who started on Sunday night talking about understanding depression, and she explained it effortlessly, showing us the indicators that to help us actually manage if we have any depressive symptoms, our friends and families. She even taught us how to treat or manage anyone who may have suicidal thoughts. But what stood out for me with her was this term called nutritional psychiatry. Ever heard of that term? Go back on YouTube, go back to Sunday night and take in that session so you could learn more about it. Then we had Monday night. Monday night, we had our own Arimian pastor, Rennie St. Hill. Wow, he did the biblical finding hope in times of despair. To me, like every sentence he said was impacting. But what I found, what was simple but stayed with me, was that as Christians, we have the capacity just to say a word to someone to lift them, just to give them a hug or even a tap on their shoulders. And that could help. When we didn't think it could get any better, we had last night Miss Usha Ram Lakan, who certainly gave us skills, and I mean working skills, on how to dance in the rain. She taught us about how to develop resilience, how to learn strategies to build on this. So before we go any further, bow your heads with me. Let's say a word of prayer, a short word of prayer. Kind and ever-loving Father, we are so grateful for yet another opportunity to learn new tools to equip us in our daily challenges, our individual families, and even our extended families. Open our minds, give us clarity. Bless the speaker, Sister Valley, in a mighty way. May she empower us through your Holy Spirit. Thank you for the AV team. Bless every member here and give us all that is needed for us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Yes, so tonight, before we continue, we have another dynamic speaker, a teacher, and allow me to share some information. Let's get let's get to learn a little bit more about Vickey. 1 second, please.
Then stage 2 with enriched form.
Right. Please excuse me about that. So here we go. So Vickey Brenda Valley is a young woman with a lot of experience. And her working experience started at TSTT, where she worked for 27 years in accounting. And after dealing with all those numbers, Vickey decided, listen, I think I have much more to offer. So she delved into medical social work from December 2018 to October 2023. Then she specialized in psychiatric social work, where she was an acting mental health department in the Eastern region in November 23rd to present. She's an active member in many boards. She's in many committees in North Central Psychosocial Committee, Mental Health Committee, Continuous Professional Development campus. Then she went to a BSc and master's in social work at UB St. Augustine. Then she had an approved medical and psychiatric social worker in 2017 and 21, respectively. She did her postgraduate diploma UB Mona campus, specific to loss, grief, and trauma management, where she had a lot of training in intimate partner violence with PAHU Spotlight Initiative, mental health gap action, also under PAHU, crisis intervention from Dynamis in Australia, prevention of aggression and violence in the workplace, her personal interests. She loves to travel and experience different cultures and food, fashion, interior designing, and party planning. Her professional interest is in IPV, grief, loss, and trauma, mental health, social policy. One, she has some good strengths, which is hardworking, dedicated, analytical, resourceful, goal-oriented team player. And she is definitely a mother of two and a grandmother of two also. So we are going to listen. I want you to meditate on the words of our theme song, I Have Been Changed. And the next voice that you will be hearing after the theme song will be that of Miss Vickey Valley.
Okay. Um, Thank you, Keisha. Thank you so very much for that introduction. So I would just say from the onset that this presentation is one that I hope will be very interactive, and I would like us to engage the information. Feel free to stop me, feel free to make comments by show of hands, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. I don't know everything about the topic, so I just want to say that from the onset, but we are in this environment to learn together and to engage and to ensure that whatever information is shared here, we all benefit, because I'm sure I'll be able to learn a few things from you as well, right? So as I begin, I too would like to start by just saying a brief prayer, just asking God to, Father, just you use me, use my lips, use my words, and edify your people. Lord, it's not me, but it's you. Take control of everything that is being said here, and let us be respectful of each other. Let us have a spirit that is open and that is willing to, to just collaborate. Father, I thank you, Lord, for wisdom, for knowledge and understanding, and just continue to be with us and take control of this entire presentation. I commit myself to you to be used as you see fit. In Jesus' name, amen. Right, so we could begin the presentation. So today, just go back to the beginning. Right, so I'm not seeing it. Let's see what I have to do. Let me look at my view. All right, so so today's topic is, it's a bit blurred. I'm not sure why it's showing up like that. Today I'm going to talk to us about mental health and the whole idea of the family dynamics and its impact on our the way we treat with mental health, not only on an individual level, but within the family, when we are or have experienced it, whether we see it in our family members or people in the community. So just trying to kind of focus on the importance of the family and making that connection with helping others deal with this whole idea of mental health. Next slide. So what I'm going to attempt to do is provide us with some definitions on what is family dynamics, how it works, the patterns of interactions, what are the definition of mental health, and I'll also try to look at how important that whole idea of the family is in the approach to providing support for persons with mental health issues. And most of the topics that are going to be covered would have to do with roles in the family system itself, the impact on the impact of that whole idea of the family and its dynamics on mental health. And we'll also look at how we could strategize and improve on the family dynamic or the family system to offer support to those persons. It may not be our direct family members, but persons who are within our community as well. Next slide. Right. So mental health, that whole idea of mental health. And as I said, this is an interactive session. So when you all hear mental health, what are some words that come to your mind when you hear that word or the term mental health? feel free to put up your hand and you could have a conversation, because this is what this is. This is not a lecture. This is a conversation that we are having about family and mental health. What have you heard or read or found to be true of mental health? Are you all hearing me? Right, I'm seeing Isha saying in the chat, when you struggle to function normally. That's good. Anyone else? And remember, no answer is a wrong answer. We're just trying to assess where we are and what do we think this whole idea of mental health is.
Don't want to disturb you too much, but Sister Mercedes, anything coming up on the YouTube? So that we could get it on the
Yes, someone in the chat has posted depression.
okay.
Right.
And also, I am seeing that a comment is being made that the slides are unreadable with the side-by-side alignment of the presenter
Yes.
and this control operator of the slides in the foreground and the speaker in the background. Okay, thank you, Brother Brumble. Yeah.
I too am having some issues with it. So are we going to rectify it, or do I, because right, right. Thank you so much. Right, so anyone else wrote anything in the chat?
Yes, we've had depression again. I would say when you hear of mental health, you tend to think of weakness or an altered state of mind.
Right, right. So it has to do with your mind. It has to do with feeling sad, which is depressed, being depressed. So there's a connection between the mind and the emotions. So right, so in essence, what WHO has defined mental health as, it's a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life. So it's a mental, so just as we hear health and mental, health has to do with that sense of feeling fine, feeling good, feeling healthy. And the mental part of it now, because we have emotional health, we have financial health, different types of health, but this mental health has to do with the thinking. How do we process our cognitive and our emotions and all of that to promote a sense of well-being? And it also provides us with the resources when we are mentally healthy. It, as the definition says, it enables people to cope. So that means that our coping mechanisms, we have a lot of coping mechanisms. Whereas if we are mentally unhealthy, which is the opposite, we cannot cope. We don't have the resources to cope with the stresses of life. We do not feel well mentally, right? And it also says, according to WHO, it is integral. It's an integral part of health, because when we are not functioning well, right? Somebody on YouTube says the term mad, which is part of our culture. We use the term mad, and I dare say that that is not a term we use in psychiatry. We try to avoid using that term because it has some negative connotations, right? Mental health is a basic human right, and it's crucial to personal, community, and socioeconomic development. So mentally well persons contribute better to society, contribute better to their love with their loved ones in the community, how they interact, right? So mental health conditions now, which is the one where persons was given examples of depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, um, bipolar disease, PTSD, all of those fall under the category mental health conditions, right? Or a mental health disorder, right? And by extension, once someone is diagnosed with that, it is also classified as a disability, right? Because it's an altered state. It may impair functioning or cause harm or risk to self. People with mental health conditions are more likely to experience lower levels of mental well-being, right? But sometimes we have persons who have mental health conditions who are high functioning. Let's say, for example, someone who might be diagnosed with depression. Once they are on a treatment or treatment regimen, you find that they are high functioning. They can go to work, they could function, they could interact with others. But it's just that they have this condition, just like diabetes, just like hypertension. This is a diagnosis that they have to live with. Next slide. Right. So the other term I want us to define before we continue is the term family dynamics. Now, family dynamics would refer to the patterns of interactions, relationships, and behaviors that exist among family members. So we have mother, father, son, daughter, and there's a pattern in which these people interact with each other. There might be different types of relationship that has developed because of those interactions. For example, mom might be closer to the firstborn, dad might be closer to the daughter, and they share a closer connection as opposed to mom and son. And so every single person in that family system will have a certain pattern in which they interact with each other. These dynamics shape how family members communicate, how they relate to each other, and in a sense, how they respond to challenges. So if we have these dynamics in the family, one member with another member, if there's poor communication, if they don't relate well to each other, anytime the family has a conflict or some type of challenge, you find that the outcome might be a little bit negative because they may not have had a proper dynamic or proper pattern of interaction with each other. So overall, family dynamics influence a person's individual development, their well-being, and overall functioning of the family as a whole. So can you imagine the family as a system that operates with um, with moving parts. And if one part doesn't function properly, then it will impact on the other parts. So an individual within that family system, if there's something, I'm using the term wrong, with the patterns of interactions or the relationships or the behaviors, the person on an individual level will be impacted. So let me see. For example, if there is a family dynamic, a pattern that might be, let's say, mom and dad the way they interact with each other, they might always be shouting at each other all the time. A child growing up in that environment, because children learn through observation, they will model that behavior. And when they are developing their own patterns of interactions with others or developing relationships, you find that that particular type of pattern will be the child will be conditioned to act that particular way. So the dynamics, as I said, has to do with that pattern of interaction. And as we go on, we'll see how those patterns could be positive, could be toxic, could be conflictual, all different types of patterns that could affect and impact the individual within that system. Next slide. So how do we understand this thing called the family dynamics? There are some elements that we need to look at. We need to look at the roles of each family member. We need to look at the communication styles. We'll need to also focus on those boundaries that are set by each member of the family, or even by the family itself as it relates to the environment or the community. Then we would look at the dynamics of the structures, whether it's nuclear, extended, blended, single parent, and the like. So all of these elements impact on how the family interacts, or that pattern that the family will end up using when they interact with each other. Next slide. So these are the different rules. What I did, I listed some of the rules. I provided a description and a function. So what I want us to do now, just look at those rules and just for a minute, put yourself in your own family setting. What role or what would you associate most with in this list that I gave you here? Are you the caregiver, the nurturer? Are you the provider, the rebel, the peacemaker? Are you the protector? Are you the scapegoat? Right? And when you look at the different descriptions of these, you will be able to see that this is who I am. But one thing we have to note as well is that each member of the family may take on one of the roles or more than one. So you'll find I might be caregiver, nurturer, and protector. I might be provider and peacemaker. So sometimes you find that the roles overlap. Now, what happens in this dynamic? If there is an overlapping of roles, where sometimes I am the caregiver and the nurturer, I am the provider, I am the protector. Once you see one person is functioning in all or more than one or even two capacity, you tend to find that that one person tends to be under a lot of stress. If you have one role, just like if you are a person, a normal person, your only role in this life might be just to be a nurse. But if you add nurse, mother, daughter, church member, a volunteer in whatever organization, once you start adding on to your roles, you are going to develop a level of stress, because most of the times we do not have the capacity to perform more than one role at a time. So some of the times, like you might hear, especially with women tend to have a lot of overlapping roles within on any given day. She dropping off children, so she's the person who drives the children to school. She's the cook, she's the washer, she's all of that. And then she comes out, so she's the caregiver and nurturer. Then she's a provider because she provides financial support, right, to ensure that the family's needs are met. She might even be the protector. So anytime you see these roles are there is an excess of it, you find that stress starts to come in. Ideally, in an environment, in a family system, the dynamics has to be equal. It should be equal. It should be that each part has equal share of all of the functions within the family setting. So can you imagine if we have all, let's say one person, like with single mothers might have all of these roles and more. She's the caregiver, she's the provider, she's the peacemaker, she's the hero, she's the scapegoat, all of this. So she's bound to feel stressed out. She's bound to feel, listen, I can't cope with this no more. I can't cope. So anytime there's an excess of any rule within a family system or the dynamics, a lot of times you find that that family becomes very, starts to get stressed, and the relationships within the system starts to become a bit problematic. Next slide. Another element of the family dynamics, communication. Communication could be open, it could be good communication, bad communication. We have open communication where family members express their thoughts and feelings, and we have mutual respect. As a result of it, people validate each other's perspective and issues are addressed directly. Whereas if we have someone who is passive aggressive, we might have members in the system, in the family system, that express negative feelings indirectly rather than openly expressing. It's like maybe through nonverbal cues, something going on, and you just see a action or reaction on the face, and they, instead of being aggressive, which is those who express themselves in a forceful way, they are very passive. They don't say much. They use sarcasm. They might have subtle digs, as they say, in the characteristics, and they use all sorts of methods to create confusion and tension, right? And those are the passive aggressive ones. Then we have those in the family who's very emotional. Everything, when they're talking to you is always, they might cry and they might over exaggerate sometimes. These members prefer to always be in a state of sharing emotions and finding that connection with the other members. Some other members might be more reflective. They're not really in the mood to talk. They are not that type of person. They don't want to talk. They need some time to think about it before they even respond. So can you imagine all of those different styles, communication styles happening in this family system? We are bound to have conflict at times because we all have different ways of communicating. Next slide. So communication styles in a family system can significantly impact relationships and the family dynamics. Understanding these communication styles can help families identify areas for improvement and foster healthy interactions. So sometimes when you look at, let's say you are looking into a family and they're not aware that you are looking in. You can tell the communication style of that family by the way they interact with each other, by the way they talk to each other, by their body language, by the way they share how they feel or not share how they feel. And it does impact on the relationships that are developed or will develop in the system. So why am I talking about this? We are looking at the family as the main support for persons who have mental health issues. So when I'll start to expand on it as we go along. But what I want you to appreciate is that the family dynamics is understanding that it is so important if we want to create an environment that is supportive for persons with mental health disorder. Let's say, for example, you live in a family, or your family dynamic is one where we don't talk about anything. People, we are not open, we are very closed. You do your thing, you might observe that somebody feeling a particular way, and we are not in the habit of talking about that. So that person sometimes, let's say they're going through something stressful. They know that the dynamics in our family is not to say anything. You go in your corner and you suffer in silence because we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to even address it because it's a very closed environment, a closed communication. Um, so understanding that the dynamics within the family, once you know what your family dynamics is, if there are challenges that come your way that attack the family, it will also determine how you respond to those challenges, right? So at this time, I just want us to just reflect on our own family in patterns of interaction, and just briefly consider for a moment, what is my communication style? What is the communication style within my family? What is it a positive communication style? Is it a style that will encourage dialogue? Is it a style that might come across as a bit judgmental? What is the communication style? What are the different roles that um, that are um, in my family? What role do I play? What role does my husband play? Do I find that sometimes I do 3, 4, 5 different things? Is it fair? Is it a system that is evenly distributed? Does everybody pull the weight? Does one person feel stressed out? One person doesn't? And so on. So understanding the family dynamics will help. As I said, as I go along, you will understand why it's so important for us to understand the family dynamics. So I just want to ask, right, someone is saying depressed family members often do not communicate well. What can we do to encourage them to communicate? So we will develop some strategies or introduce some strategies as we go along, right? So let me hear from you, from your personal settings, without going into much details. What have you noticed from your personal experience is your communication style based on what you observe in your family? Somebody's mic is open. And remember, this is a conversation we having, and we have to it's a non-judgmental environment, right? Somebody says avoid talking altogether. Misha, I think that is your comment. So let me give an example. So in my family, I am, my role is, I do almost everything because I have a little OCD tendency, right? So because of that, my family sees me as the person who solves all the problems, the person to when there's an issue. The person, I am always the resource person. But when I shut down and I say today I am tired, there's nothing happening in the family. They just leave it. We'll do that tomorrow, and mommy will do that. And there's what I say, dynamic has to be fair and it has to be shared. It has to be those roles and functions. We have to have that communication that is open. So I should be able to say to my family members, listen, I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel like you all I feel like you're taking me for granted, and having that open dialogue. So when you create that environment where persons could sit down and really talk to each other, then it will augur well for your mental health and that whole idea of mental well-being. But if we operate in a dynamic that it doesn't have that, then you find that persons might tend to go outside of the family system, look for that same sense of family dynamics will encourage that supportive environment. Anyone has any comments, any opinions of their own that they want to share about their own family setting and dynamics? And as I said before, this is a conversation. This is not a lecture per se, right? So feel free to join in, feel free to share your comments or your experience with all of us. Why I'm taking my time with this is so that we could understand and connect with ourselves. Because when we know what our style is, what our rules are, and we understand that is who we are in this particular setting, when these challenges come, the mental health challenges come, we will respond to these challenges based on our communication style, based on the rules that we have adopted over the years, right? Within a family system. So let's go back to the presentation. Next slide. I am not seeing, right. So another dynamic here would be the different types of families. You have nuclear families, which consists of a husband and a wife, a single parent family with just one parent, either the male or the female, the mother and the father alone and the children. Extended families consist two or more people, childless families, grandparents families, step families. All of these elements create that whole dynamic, because you could imagine in an extended family, we have two or more sets of generations. Sometimes you have a grandmother, the mother, the aunt, everybody living in the same house, and it does affect the dynamics. So when we have mental health issues, it becomes a little harder to navigate that support system. Next slide. Right. Boundaries. This is something that another element that we have to look at with family dynamics. There are enmeshed families. What do I mean by enmeshed families? Enmeshed families don't have any boundaries. family members are overly involved in each other's lives with, and there is like you can't determine who is who. Every single body. I know everything about her, she knows everything about me. There's a dependency. There's often emotional reliance on one another, leading to difficulty in making independent decisions. So I can't make a decision without calling this one up. If she not there, I can't do it. There is limited privacy, personal space, and privacy are often disregarded because all of us in one place and we just everything. I wear your clothes, you wear, I could come in your room. There is no boundaries. And these, just as the word said, the families are so intertwined that there's no sense of an individual. It's high in emotional intensity. Emotions can run high with frequent drama, conflict, and crises that reinforce the interconnectedness of family members, right? Right. Someone says, I believe communication style is learned behavior. And this is coming from the YouTube chat. Very, very true. Because as we know, children always learn by observation. And if they observe mom and dad, mom and a big sister, let's say a little, the younger one, seeing that dynamics and seeing all of these interactions, there's no other thing that the child will do but what the child sees. And it's over a period of time. And sometimes you even look at gestures, the way they gesture, the way the voice intonations, everything, right? So it is learned, but it's learned through observation, right? Next slide. And what are the implications of this type of family? Members may struggle with personal identity, as I said before, and their sense of self is heavily tied to the family. Relationships can become suffocating, leading to resentment or desire to escape. Communication may become less effective due to the overwhelming emotions and unaddressed issues. So they are so intertwined, you can't decide, you can't determine who is who. Everybody seems to be the same. It's like we have clones and there's no sense of self. And everything is about being connected to the hip. And we can't seem to get away from each other. We are just there. And as it said, it becomes suffocating. So like you might be at home and you can't go anywhere without this one being there. And the family have to do everything together. And there's no individual space for persons to develop and grow. Next slide. Disengaged families. This is the other extreme now. We have emotional distance, limited communication, neglect of relationships. They prefer independence over togetherness. That's the other extreme. We just don't want to have anything to do. We know that you are the mother, father, whatever, but I don't want to do nothing with you. Keep away from me. I don't want to talk about nothing. We just not connected at all. Next slide. The implications of this is that members feel lonely, unsupported, even when living under the same roof. There can be a sense of disconnection leading to difficulties in building trust or emotional intimacy. Issues may go unaddressed, resulting in unresolved conflicts and emotional baggage. Can you imagine someone who was diagnosed with a mental health disorder in this type of family? We are just not going to talk about it. The person might feel so disconnected that he or she can't talk to anybody. They can't go to the mother, they can't go to the father, they can't go to the sister. Because if I go, then I know I'm not going to be supported. I don't trust them because they might throw it back in my face. It might start to have a lot of conflicts in that situation because people might feel you're burdening them or it's a problem if I come and I talk to you. So this is another type of family that that we see most of the times when we look at the family dynamics and family systems. Next slide. So in summary, enmeshed families struggle with too much closeness, and it often leads to dependency and conflict. Disengaged families, however, face the opposite challenge. They are emotionally distant, with little or no connectedness and a sense of isolation. I feel isolated. I don't feel as if I am a part of anything. But both dynamics can hinder healthy relationships and personal growth. Because if you're too close together, you can't grow. If you're too far apart, you can't feel connected. So both of this type of family boundary setting system can have negative and positive implications. Next slide. So let's look at some healthy family dynamics. Healthy families have open communication. There are clear roles and boundaries because each member understands who they are, what their roles and responsibilities are. They can express themselves. It's a supportive environment. We have an environment where there's mutual respect. And when there are changes or challenges, families show resilience and flexibility because they have learned to adjust. There's a positive emotional climate. The overall mood is supportive and nurturing. This is a healthy family dynamic, right? Let's look at the unhealthy one now. Next slide. We have poor communications. Members struggle to express themselves. We have a lot of misunderstanding. There's no emotional connection. There are blurred rules and boundaries. We don't have support. We have a lot of conflict. We don't know how to resolve conflicts properly. We have disrespect, criticism. People are resistant to change, and there's a negative emotional environment. The overall mood of the family dynamic is tense, hostile, which leads to feeling of anxiety, fear, and isolation. Conflicts are poorly handled. People they use avoidance, sometimes they use aggression, and in order to resolve those conflicts, they might they might lead to feelings of neglect. They might feel unsupported, burdened, the members of the family, that is, right? And the roles are blurred. Roles may become confused. Boundaries might become violated, leading to that whole idea of being enmeshed. I don't know who I am by myself. I need you around me all the time, and I can't survive without you, right? So this is the unhealthy family dynamics. So look at yourself, look at your family, and ask yourself those important questions. Now, remember, we're going to touch on mental health. So I want us to consider the family as the system, as the basket, as the house where persons who have mental health issues now going to start to come in. So if it's unhealthy, those persons going to experience all of these things. If the boundaries are enmeshed or the boundaries are blurred, the boundaries are not as distinct, we will have difficulty when we face in the family. Next slide. So healthy family dynamics promote individual and collective well-being. Remember that mental well-being, fostering a supportive and nurturing environment. On the other hand, unhealthy dynamics can lead to dysfunction, emotional distress, and strained relationships. So recognizing your patterns in your family can help make positive changes to enhance the way you interact and enhance the type of relationships that are developed within the family setting. Next slide. So now that I set the tone and I set a framework for us to understand the family system and the family dynamics, I want us now to see what is the role of this family system in mental health. We talked just now about a lot about support, a lot about nurturing, a lot about creating an environment where people feel free to come and talk to each other, talk to maybe one member, just to share how they feel. Persons who are diagnosed with mental health condition need support. And the first place that they would look for that support is within the family. But if that family is unhealthy, the family's interactions, the dynamics, the relationships are unhealthy, then what you end up finding is that those persons don't feel supported. They don't see their system as being one that will be supportive, but that would provide the emotional support or even the openness and the willingness for persons to sit with them and collaborate with them and feel, listen, you see me, I am feeling stressed out. I am feeling, whether it's at school, at work, whatever. I can't go and talk to my family members. I can't go and get support there because of the type of family dynamics that I know that my family have. Whereas if someone has a healthy family dynamic, you find that the support that they could get when they experience mental health. And I mean, I am playing role is your mental health and the different types of mental, because I know there would be other speakers who would have touched on that. My main thing is for us to understand that persons who have issues with mental health need to be supported, need to have that family dynamic that I just excuse me, I'm trying to charge my laptop. Right, so could put back the slider, please. Right, so having a family dynamic that is supportive will augur well for someone who has a mental health diagnosis. Let me give you an example. Let's say a child has or was diagnosed with anxiety, and anxiety is aware that my family dynamic is not does not promote a supportive environment. The family dynamic might not be healthy. There might be a lot of quarreling and fighting and shouting, and there would be that particular person might have a lot of struggle or a lot of challenges coming to that family for support, because one, they might have created the anxiety because of the interactions, and two, the child would have learned that, let's say, when mommy and daddy quarreling and fighting, I I don't feel safe. I feel fear. I feel anxious because I don't know what's going to happen next. for them. So the child developed our children to that negative, unhealthy dynamic or negative and negative communication styles and all of the other elements that we spoke about, that those that maybe are not healthy boundaries. You find that persons with mental health issues will never see their family as a support system. Instead of drawing them in to help them, is okay, I understand, I know that you're experiencing this. Come, let's talk. Come, I am here for you. Instead of doing that, what sometimes you find with families is that I remember there was a case, this child, she's about 17. She developed an autistic disorder, and she has some levels of maybe schizophrenia somewhere inside. And when she has her episodes, because she becomes very anxious, and sometimes she gets uncontrollable, because with autism, sometimes the slightest trigger, they tend to become hyperactive. And what the mother said was that, why you don't stop acting, stop behaving like that? And what happened is that this pattern of interaction and communication has always been there between mom and daughter, where mom would be harsh and mom talks to me. She was Mommy always just tells me that I am faking and nothing wrong with me, and why I don't go in my room and behave myself. And then sometimes when mom can't deal with it, mom beats her. So the interact child in that setting, her condition is exacerbated. It becomes heightened because the family dynamics and the family setting does not promote support. The role of the family again that we form with our mothers and our fathers and our sisters and our brothers. If those attachments are not secure, then what's going to end up happening? The children end up becoming they end up start feeling as if they are not loved, they are not of any value. Mom doesn't even ask me how I am. There's no attachment, no connectedness. They don't feel as if these persons who supposed to love them care about them enough. So you find that they become detached. Mother, father, sister, brother, they are detached. So when I have my issues with my mental health, I can't go to them. I can't feel comfortable. I don't feel as if they will understand. Because if I go to them, the first thing they would say is, um, they don't validate children. If they don't feel that sense of attachment or that sense of connectedness to their family, you find that they end up trying to find it outside. In the age of social media, you see children going online searching for it. They go and they connect with people on Facebook. And there are a lot of cases where teenagers, they befriend persons on the internet who claim to be their age, and they lure them out into all kind of places, and when they check, the persons are big grown men who abuse them. So as I said, it's important for us to set the tone for our family members in that when we have a healthy family dynamic, it helps with the management of mental health issues. If you have someone, let's say somebody who is anxious, who feels detached, who is depressed all the time, what is your response? What is your do this? If you have an your family, the response to them or what I find the speaker looking like you're sad more than often. You want to talk about it? Do you mind if we go somewhere, maybe, and just talk? Be aware, be present, so that that particular person or anybody who's experiencing some mental health issues can feel free to come and talk with you. Because if that doesn't happen, as I said, they look for other ways to manage it. Some people turn to those might turn to substance use, which is so pervasive in the schools today. You find children, the statistics high, where children are exposed to a lot of substances like alcohol, marijuana, I talk to my mother. Sometimes I just smoke a joint, and when I smoke a joint, all my worries end. And then they become a dealing with whatever emotions and whatever difficult mental processing they have. Um, Now, mind you, mental health could also be genetic too. So it's not only the environment, but there are a lot of other different causal factors. So it doesn't always have to be the family environment. But most of the time, the family dynamics and the family system creates the mental health issues, especially in children or even adults, because because of that unhealthy dynamic within the family. Right. So the role of the family is to support. The role of the family is to eliminate stress the best way that we could, right? We're not going to create conflict. We are not going to have issues that we can't resolve. And we are going to try to promote those functional patterns, not the issues. When there's dysfunction in the family, it also contributes to poor mental health and poor well-being. Because can you imagine, home is the place where I'm supposed to find peace and joy. But when I come home, it's always arguing, it's always fighting, it's always quarreling. If I open my mouth to say something, how I communicate, somebody might start to quarrel with me and say, why do you hush your mouth? What you're talking is nonsense. So when you have that in the family and you don't address it, trust me, it's going to affect and impact the way the person mental health is it will have an impact on the person's mental health and the mental well-being. Because especially in children, we have noticed that with children need nurturing, they need a loving environment, they need an environment that is safe and gives them that sense that this is my safe place to come to when I feel pressured and when I feel stressed. But some of the times when we come home, when children come home, they come home to an environment that is not healthy, that is dysfunctional. that people are arguing and fighting with their mental health, right? As I said, the early attachment, it's important for families to understand attachment and safety, that haven, that sense of feeling protected and loved and nurtured, as opposed to if they don't feel securely attached to their parents. Sometimes parents give them a laptop or give them a tablet or just too busy to even ask them, how was your day? What did you do in school today? Because we so wrapped up with doing all that we have to do to live and to survive. So having that attachment, so families need to create, to promote safety, promote that sense of create an environment that can be positive, that can contribute to the well-being of our children, of our loved ones. We have to be mindful that it's important that we take note of all of these dynamics and the interactions so that we could always be aware when something is not happening and we need to have or make some changes. Does contribute to mental ill health. Next slide. So let's look at a few mental health issues. Anxiety. Those anxiety disorders like generalized anxiety, agoraphobia, panic disorder, social anxiety disorder, all of those. When we look at family, if a family is overprotective, no, don't touch that, don't touch that. No, 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 leave that, leave that. I will do it, I will do it. And we don't give the children the freedom to be themselves within the rules, of course. But we tend to become so overprotected because what is going on in the world today, we don't to be harmed, which is, I mean, is a fair assessment. But sometimes overprotection and even over criticism can cause a child to feel anxious because it's like, if I touch this, I wonder if I touch this boy, what she will say. Or can I do this for myself? So they start to be anxious about how they behave, how they think. And that anxiety now develop over time could turn into a disorder. Agoraphobia is one where I am afraid. That's just like social disorder. If I go outside there, if I am overprotected, I don't know how to interact with the world outside there. So if somebody dropped me in Port of Spain now, I will start to get so anxious. I will know what to do. The noises around me. Oh gosh, look, so many people passing. We have to be careful that we strike a balance. We don't overprotect and over criticize because then it creates that feeling in the child as they develop that it is not okay. I will doubt a wonder boy. And every time they have to do something, there's this almost enhanced level of anxiety on what to do, how to do it, whatever. And we have to be careful that that is not the type of parents that we are. Or even your siblings too, your siblings, you might have a sibling who always critical. Why are you doing, why are you touching? I didn't see it. You're not always critical of what you do. So if in that dynamic, if in the home, that is what the child or the family member is experiencing, then it could develop into anxiety disorders if those dynamics are not changed, or if the dynamics or the interaction patterns don't change, right? Could you, right? Then depression, another mental health disorder, bipolar, persistent depressive disorder, postpartum depression, major depressive disorder. Most of the times, these depressive symptoms, when it comes in the beginning, it starts in the beginning. Some is chemical. We know we have some persons who have some chemical imbalances, but the persistent just had a baby and your hormones just not in balance. But if you don't have, again, we're going back to that support, lack of support, those feelings sometimes that, oh gosh, I'm not good enough. I feel sad, I'm not worthy. And you tend to have a poor self concept because of what is happening within the family setting. And you start to feel that persistent sadness all the time. Whenever I think about my life and my family and I just don't feel, I feel sad all the time. And every day I get up, I feel that way. Most of the times when you trace it back, you ask the question, so how was your home life? Well, I don't know now. I don't feel happy when I go home, you know, because most of the times there's conflict, there's arguing, there's fight. This is too hard for me, and they become more isolated, and they tend to this. And if there's a predisposition, meaning if there's a family history of depression, if there's a chemical imbalance, you find that they are predisposed to feel like that. But again, the factors also that influence that behavior, so we have to be careful even when we spot it early. We have to understand sometimes that the family dynamics causes it to become a little bit more pronounced because of what that individual might be experiencing in the family setting. Eating disorders. Where do you get your sense of self from? Where do you get your sense of who you are? From your family. Sometimes you say, you can see, look at your nose, how your nose big. And we making joke because that's our culture. We like to fatigue and make all kind of comments about each other. But sometimes having that poor body image, or you might hear your mother or your father, whoever, compare you to another family member. You can see how this, why you can't look like that? Look at how, you can see how she looks a particular way, or why you can see how fat you are, and because of that negative body image, an eating disorder could develop. Anorexia nervosa, bulimia, binge eating, all of that. Spontaneous and you just as you eat. I remember a child told me, I don't like to feel full, because when I feel full, I feel as if the food is going to just explode in my skin, or all kind of talk, all kind of different explanation, because somebody has been telling her that she doesn't look the way she's supposed to look. So all of these, as I said, these are just three examples of how the family dynamics and the way we interact with each other can create and also develop or help these disorders to con right? So it's important for us to take note of how we respond to each other so that we do not create that mental ill health, that attitude or that feeling that I am not good enough, that I am always being criticized. I can't do anything right. I'm the worst, the failure in the family. And these things play on your mental processing, your sense of self and your sense of worth. Next slide. So let's look at two case studies. So when we have a high conflict family and a supportive family. So in a high conflict family, has a communication pattern of constant arguing. Every single minute, somebody go cuss up somebody pass if you watch me too hard or arguing. And for the slightest thing. And mind you, there might be one child or one member of that family who just can't deal with the arguing. And that person gets so affected that that person starts to be anxious, that person starts to get depressed, that person starts to develop those eating disorders, that poor self-image, all of that. And that sense of not feeling securely attached to this family because something, why we can't love each other. So that whole sense of connecting to my family members, I feel as if we don't love each other, we don't show love, all we do is argue all the time. What is the impact of those high conflict families? We have increased stress, anxiety, and depression in children. And we could understand why. Because if that conflict develops into domestic violence, let's just say, a child in that home is exposed to something like that. This is a child who is now learning how to interact and how to communicate. And they are seeing this happening in the home. The child going to start to get frightened, scared. They wouldn't know because is daddy going to hurt mommy? What will happen next? Will I be alone? And they start to feel anxious. And this is the family, this is the dynamics that we're talking about most of the time when we see it in children in the hospital. When we see children coming before us who cutting the skin, who self-harming, who attempting suicide by drinking whatever tablets they find in the cupboard. When you ask them, the first thing they would say, when I ask, I say, so how is your home? Miss, my mother and father always cursing each other. Or my father just come home drunk, and when he come home drunk, we have to run inside because anybody in his party beaten. When we have these type of family dynamics, it does not augur well for the members of the family because the members of the family depend on the family system to be supportive, to be safe, to be the haven, to be the support system, to be the place where they feel loved, where they feel protected. But if that doesn't happen, all of these negative outcomes we notice would develop, right? Increased stress. When you, as I tell you, children are presenting younger now in the hospitals with self-harm and suicidal ideations. Because they tell you, I don't want to live anymore because there's no reason, there's no purpose, because I don't have love in my home. And they look at their friends and they see healthy family dynamics. They know when it's healthy compared to what they have. And they say, imagine my birthday came up and my father didn't even do anything for me. He didn't even buy, he didn't even tell me happy birthday. And then they would say, Miss, like my friend Susan, or like my friend, I see them going out for drives. I see, because that is the dynamic that is healthy and that will foster and assist a child to function healthy as a healthy or mentally healthy child. Second scenario, a supportive family. In a supportive family, we have a child who feels safe because we have a good communication. Everyone cares about or shows that they care about the other person. Let me help you with that. Why are you sad? How was your day? I notice that you're feeling a little bit down. What's going on? Be interested. They are interested in what is happening in the child's life or a family member's life. It causes that person or that family member to feel supported emotionally, physically, mentally. And because of that, anytime there's an issue, there's a challenge, they are more resilient. They could bounce back because you know why? When they are faced with the challenges, they have a healthy family dynamic. They can come back to that place where they feel supported. I'm not saying that that's the only way to treat with mental health, but it's one of the best approaches if we have that support. Sometimes you see children come into the clinic, and let's say a child has ADHD and they come to the clinic and the mother can't deal with it and she hits on the child, sit down, sit down. Don't do that because she is frustrated too. She needs the support. Sometimes you find that she doesn't have in her dynamics, family dynamics, she might be a single parent based on the structure. She might be a single parent. She doesn't have the support of an extended family or even the father of the child. She feels very, very alone. And when she feels that way, because remember, her roles, she has excessive roles to perform, she's going to feel stressed. She's going to feel as if she doesn't have any more coping resources. And when we have an ADHD child who's hyper all the time, how can she have, how can she be mentally healthy if she doesn't have a proper family dynamic? Which is why, like I would say the ideal, because God knows what he was saying when he says, you have to, you get married, and in the marriage, you have children, and there's a particular order. But when we go outside of that order, we have children. I'm not trying to judge anybody, but we have children out of wedlock. We have multiple fathers or whatever it is. Because that dynamic is not healthy, obviously the next thing that's going to happen is high levels of stress, anxiety, because we're wondering how we paying the bills. We don't have the support, the financial support, the moral support of these people. And you are caregiver, protector, provider. You are the person who they come to fix the problem solver. And then on top of that now, you do not have support for yourself. So in a single parent system, that dynamic, when you look at the statistics in a single parent structure, most of the times is a lot of stress. Children, most of the time, I'm not saying that there aren't cases where people who are single parent who make it, but most of the time, because of that structure and the overlapping in rules, we end up with children who are not mentally healthy. And even the family, the person who's the single parent also will have challenges. And then with the mental health, we have physical ill health. You have things like hypertension, diabetes, all of these non-communicable diseases that start to develop heart problems. So having that healthy family dynamic where people understand their roles, where the boundaries are clearly defined, where we don't have enmeshment or we don't have disengagement. We have healthy dynamics where people are free or feel free to come and talk, to come and share, to come and and just problem solve and to come and cry and to share all that they are experiencing in a loving environment. But if we don't have that, trust me, the fabric, the very fabric of this family system is going to be so eroded that there wouldn't be anything to hold any of the members together, and you will find that a lot of issues going to start coming up, right? So those two cases, those two extremes, the supportive as opposed to the conflicting families, we have to keep that in mind when we are assessing even our own family dynamics and what exactly is the result of it. Because you see it, you try your best. We try our best as parents. We try our best to do the right things, but sometimes just for us to cope and just for us to figure out life, to create that work-life balance, or that balance between church and all the different things that we have, we sometimes miss the very basics. How do I communicate? What are my boundaries? Have I set the proper boundaries? Have I been highly critical? Do I come across as overprotective? What exactly is it? And it's time for us to screen ourselves and assess ourselves, because it doesn't augur well for the members as a whole. If one part of the system is not functioning properly, then the whole system suffers. So mental health starts in the home. It starts with having good family dynamics. It starts with us understanding how to set boundaries, how to define roles properly, how to create, that environment, or that pattern of interaction that will develop healthy, sound, safe relationships and connections within the family, so that when mental health issues arise, we can sometimes nip it in the bud. We will not miss it. We will not have the opportunity to say, oh gosh, when that happened, I can't believe my daughter tried to kill herself, as happened recently. 19, the child is 19 years old, and the mother is single. She's a single parent. She had an experience of having very unhealthy family dynamics in her past. She was a victim of domestic violence, sorry, a survivor of domestic violence. So she also had a dynamic within her system when she was pregnant with the son and whatever. So when the relationship ended, she became what she felt, or the product of the dynamic that she experienced. So her dynamic was that she didn't have a partner who was loving, who made her feel safe, who he made her feel anxious and fearful, because she never knew when she was going to get a lash. She never knew when he might be upset. And then children were observing it, and this particular child became so withdrawn, so sad, because he said he felt as if he was helpless and it was his fault that daddy was beating mom. So he used to keep quiet. He used to go in a corner and just to make sure that he does nothing wrong. When he ended up trying to commit suicide, he said to me, he said, when mom beat me, I felt as if I did something wrong and it was my fault. So because mom was angry and upset, I think the best thing to do is for me to just get rid of myself, take myself out of the equation, because I am the reason why mom is how she is, right? And while he was on the ward, he attempted suicide twice. twice. He went in the washroom, he found something and he tried to cut his wrist, and it's like, how? And when I talked to mom and I got the history, the family dynamics that mom grew up in was so unhealthy and toxic. So it kind of perpetuated the same patterns of interactions when she interacted with her children. And trust me, she developed that pattern by observation, by how she experienced her mother, her father, her spouse, her significant other. That's what she was taught. And because of that unhealthy dynamic, that toxic dynamic, she passed that on to her sons. And it ended up, thankfully, he survived with a lot of therapy, a lot of family therapy, because she also need to be included in the equation. We found that it helped with the child understanding that, listen, it's not my fault. I just was experiencing a dynamic that wasn't healthy because of what my mother was accustomed to. Right? So it's very, very important that we understand. All right, next slide. So what can we do? What can we do as a family to promote healthy family dynamics? We need to improve how we communicate with each other. We need to improve how we communicate with each other, with each member of our family. And I'm not talking about the world, because if we start with one family unit at a time, and it will eventually grow and morph into something. If every one of us here start within our own family setting, and we make a resolve, let us try to the best of our ability to create healthy family dynamics, so that those disorders or those mental ill health tendency does not develop. And if it does, we want to be able to create that environment where we could support each other through listening, through active listening, through emotional intelligence and emotional connectedness. We can do it. But we have to be very mindful of, when we are assessing ourselves, we have to assess our family as a unit and look at the whole thing. Don't say it's your fault. You see the kind of father you are, you see the kind of sister you are, and we start looking and pointing fingers. But we have to see that every single one of the member of that family contribute to the dynamic, whether it's healthy or and determine whether the dynamic is healthy or unhealthy. So again, interventions and strategy: improve communication, active listening, using I statements. When we are trying to resolve conflict, never start with you. You see, use this. Always start with I. You know, I was looking at what happened, and I found that I may have reacted a particular way in response to what you said. So I would like to sit with you and to don't say, see, you said this and that. So improve that communication, especially when resolving conflicts. Have regular family meetings where we could sit down and we could have that open communication. Remember that communication style that is healthy. Open communication where everyone will have the opportunity to feel heard and feel respected. Because as I said, that dynamic does positively impact your mental health, the mental health of all members. Establish healthy boundaries. Teach family members to respect personal space and autonomy, setting boundaries of time, space, personal, maybe personal goals for yourself. Set those boundaries. Don't become so enmeshed or so disengaged that we don't understand what a healthy boundary is. I am not saying that we should remove the protection from our children, but sometimes, what they say, we sometimes become like helicopter mom, always wanting to know where, how, when, why, who, what. Sometimes you have to build trust in children. In order to build trust, we have to give them a little room, give them a little space, engage them, ask them how they feel about a particular thing so that they could develop autonomy, that sense of being able to do things on their own, because they're going to grow up and leave home. And then if you are constantly helicoptering around them, then they would never learn to be independent. Teach them how to respect personal space. If you see me sitting down here reading a book, you don't have the permission to just jump on top. Like there was a parent who I saw that I had a Zoom meeting with her, and she has a young child, about 6 or 7, and I heard her before the meeting say to him, okay, mommy is going on the Zoom session. I want you to sit in the corner. She gave him some book or something. And you cannot disturb mommy, right? When I'm finished, I will come and talk to you. Listen, after 3 minutes, the child was all over the screen, singing every minute, mommy, I want water. Mommy, and she could not even concentrate. So I had to cut the meeting. I said, you know what? I think your child might need you more now than this session. So you need to go and see to the needs of your child. So understanding how to set space. She sometimes said that she might be kneeling, praying, and the child would just jump on her. So I'm saying these are the times within the family setting we have to learn how to teach our children about healthy boundaries. Another strategy, seek professional help. When we do that assessment of our family dynamic and we realize, wait now, nah, this ain't looking like it's healthy, something not right. Why she's have to talk to me like if she disrespecting me? Why she's have to talk like that? Sometimes you see a teenager shouting at the mother and calling them all kind of names. Where that teenager learn that from? That teenager see that or learn that by observing something that they see in that family system. Understanding and becoming aware of your family dynamics and taking note, doing that assessment and taking note about how we interact with each other. Is it healthy? And if it's not healthy, we need to do what this next step says. Go and get family counseling, therapy, a support group, some other external thing that could help mediate and could help the family dynamics become a little bit more healthy. And you will know, you must know, because you will see the behavior and you will see the root, the effects of it. When you see it in your children, you see the behaviors, you see children acting out a particular way, you see them with acting anxious or withdrawing, you see them depressed. Something is happening in the family dynamic to create that. And if you are noticing it, notice it and be honest with yourself. Maybe it is I have to change something. And if I need to change, and you notice that there's something happening within the interactions and that pattern that exists in the home, please, before the children, before a member of the family develop those mental ill health conditions, we have to nip it in the bud. And that's why it was so important to understand family dynamics and how it affects mental health, how it could cause persons to develop those conditions. And as I said, I'm not negating the fact or denying the fact that other factors influence mental health. Could be chemical, could be genetic. But trust me when I say right now in Trinidad and Tobago, the children that are presenting in the clinics, when we do our assessment, it is because of poor family dynamics. And it's sad, the cases that are coming to us in the clinics. It's sad, and it's starting me, I mean, so young. Imagine a child who's 12 years old living in this yard, and this yard is filled with, let's say, about 4 different houses in on one property, but it's a family, right? So it's an extended family. As we looked at the structure, it's an extended family. So an uncle living here, an aunt here, the parents, the client's home is somewhere in there. And the parent is cursing the brother in the back. And the brother in the back come out with a cutlass. And the next one, and this child now is anxious because from the time she started to hear raised voices, something happening in the yard. You see the kind of dynamics, the communication, the way the boundaries, there's no boundaries. You could come in my space with a cutlass and chop me up and do whatever. And then what ended up happening with that child? That child was being sexually abused by an uncle because of the poor family dynamics that existed in her home. There wasn't any boundaries, there wasn't any protection for her. Excuse me. This uncle felt that he could have come into the home when the mother wasn't home. So no boundaries. He could walk into my house and walk into my 8-year-old bedroom, and she was 9 at the time. So from 9 to 11 years old, that child was being sexually abused by a relative who was living in the same compound, and threatened the child and told her, if you tell anybody, I will kill your mother and I will kill you. So this child developed, she had some behavioral issues. She would be anxious. She would start to sometimes get so angry. She had anger management issues. And the mother couldn't understand. But it's the family dynamics which created those coping strategies in the child. So I'm saying all this to say that we have to be mindful of how important family dynamics is in the mental health, in treating with mental health issues and the support that comes from the family. Next slide. Next slide. And I want to stress that last part where if you recognize and you take your assessment, you do your assessment, you must know that the behaviors are not normal. Something happening inside of here. This is not right. All you misbehaving, all you disrespectful, all you shouting, all you acting up, all you smoking, all you coming in late, all you do. Something has happened to this family dynamics that caused that to manifest in the child's behavior, the child's thoughts, the child's sense of self, the child's safety, and the child feeling secure in their home. How do we promote positive family dynamic? Encourage open dialogue. We want to foster that environment, whether it's weekly meetings. Like I like to tell my families, if you see something is happening to your child and you're picking up something is wrong, because that child, the first child I was telling you about that developed the autism and anxiety disorder, the mother said to me, you know, when the child is 17, you know, when the child was about 14, I noticed some strange behaviors. But I say, well, that's just a teenager. She just, whatever. But now, when it is too late, when it has been conditioned and it has developed into a pattern that's stuck with this child to help the child cope, it might be too late. Miss Valley, you know why I cut myself? That is the only time I feel release. When I cut myself. Release from what? When you're asking them, you see what's going on in the house? As well, I had to find a way. Another child used to walk out the house 12 o'clock in the night. When the mother come to check her bed, she not in her bed. When I ask her where she does go, I say, you're aware that if you leave this house that hour of the night, you could be in harm's way? She said, Miss Valley, when I quite family dynamics. So engage in open dialogue. Foster that environment where everyone feels safe to share, not judgmental, not being critical. Why you don't shut your mouth? What's chipping is what you know. Listen, active listening. Active listening means hushing your mouth and hear what they say. Don't say anything. Let sometimes before they even finish the sentence, you're ready to act. You're ready to say something. No. Engage in family activities. Engage in family activities. Strength, which causes you to, which creates a stronger bond. Because when we share, we go to the beach, we cook. And I was saying, have a daughter and a father-daughter having and interacting with an opposite sex. Please come up with and simply, it don't have to be expensive, you know, but engage in family activities to strengthen that family system and that family bond. Recognize and address issues early. Don't pretend that it doesn't exist. Take note, because let me tell you, them children going up on Facebook and they're going online and they're learning these behaviors. They're going on YouTube and the eyes fixed because they're learning through observation. It have self-harming clubs and all kind of thing, you know, online. Yes, so let me see how much time you cut, how much you have. Show me your marks. Show me your marks. I'm telling you, if we don't understand that we need to be vigilant about what our children are involved in. Sometimes they're on the cell phone. They come, you see them, and they have the cell phone and they have locks on the phone and all kind of thing. The dynamics, set some boundaries, learn how to pick up on these problems, because trust me, when they reach a certain age, it will manifest into behaviors and conditions that will not be healthy. So be proactive. Be proactive about when you notice your child being withdrawn and only staying in the bedroom and lock up in the bedroom. No, something is wrong with that. Nah, she quiet, man. She's a quiet child. Leave her there. But what's she doing on the tablet, or what she doing? What is the child being or being exposed to in them little quiet moments? So understand rules, communication, boundaries, family dynamics, pattern of interactions, and be very vigilant of assessing your family dynamics and know when something is wrong. And when something is wrong is when it will start manifesting. You're seeing it in the behaviors of the members. You're seeing it in the communication style. You're seeing it, but you're not paying attention until it's too late. So be proactive. Be proactive about mental health concerns in your family. When you see it, address it early, get therapy. It has so many. When I talk the next day, we will talk about those resources that are in the environment that could assist the family now in assessing behaviors, in recognizing symptoms, and seeing where these children or these family members might be struggling and having some mental health concerns. Next slide. Right, so in conclusion, as I wrap up, and now I've been talking, I wanted you all to be interactive, but I've seen some text, some chat messages, and I appreciate that, but I don't know what is the hindrance for people to talk and share. But I know time is running out, and I just would go through, and maybe when I'm finished, you could ask questions. So just to recap, family dynamics significantly influence our mental health. Understanding rules and communication style is vital, and support and intervention early intervention can foster healthier family environments. So I want to encourage us as we leave to openly discuss those issues, create a network, even if you say like it's 4 families or 3 families. Listen, we meet as a group and we sit and discuss what you notice happening with you, what you notice in your family. And you sit and you try to interact and try to maybe share notes and support each other, because I mean, in this current climate in Trinidad and Tobago and in the global climate, it is not an easy place or a positive place to raise children, to raise a family that is healthy. But we have to protect our family and understand those dynamics and understand those issues that impact negatively on our family dynamics and by extension, our mental health and well-being. So next slide. The next slide, let me close and then we'll do the question and answer if we have any. Go to the next slide. Right. I just want to leave this with us. Could I see it? I'm not seeing. Right. I want us to, these are some quotes that I found. Families lose when people treat mental illness like it only impacts one person. Take time to check in with your kids. What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, more unashamed conversation about illnesses that affect not only individuals, but their families as well. So we're going back to the families. Mental health is a family issue. And we have to understand that it must start with us having positive, healthy family dynamics that will create a supportive and safe and protective environment for the members that consist the family system. Thank you so much for your time. And if there, I know it's late and I would have been talking for a while. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask. Any points that you wanted clarification on, feel free to do so now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
What I noticed from, while you were explaining in society is that parents, children go through so much, but we as parents, sometimes we don't deal with the trauma in our lives before we try to help our children. And, parents is feel, people is feel because they're an adult now. That's all right. So you can boss your children, you can disrespect them, and it's so sad because adults don't take any accountability for their actions and they don't deal with root problems in their lives, and it just, as you were talking, I just felt so sad and so hurt. And what about the families that I wouldn't say have it together, but where they put family first, how can we help broken families, What can we do as a community? And that's another thing that we lack in this place is community love. We don't look out for one another. We see our child abuse, but yet what are we doing? Everybody keeping to their self, they're keeping their peace. But what you really doing? What are we doing to help the family dynamics? You see so much broken children grow up to be broken adults. They reproduce, they bring broken children into the world, and the system just goes on and on. And it takes, and I do believe that it takes one or two people to break that cycle. And we need to really have a community to come together to have that positive dynamic, because one person can make a difference. We can. But it's really sad to know that, as I said, adults, hurt children become hurt adults, and they just keep passing on the trauma over and over and over. And, as a mom, I have 3 daughters, and I have been there. I have been the person to binge eat because, I grew up in a family where they weren't too loving. I mean, they gave us everything we needed, but they never reciprocate that love. And this is what we need, love. Love helps us to grow and nurture us. Not the kind of love when you do something bad, you're being, I don't love you again, but you need that love, And I just believe even us as families, the ones that do have that family system, we need to help the others. We really need to do, and we need to stop, staying in the shadows and on looking and what you're doing. What are we really doing to help this situation? And then when something happens, oh, we sorry. Why are we sorry in the first place? We could have make an impact. People are afraid. Why are you afraid? Go down that extra place. Go down on your knees, self, and pray for this family. You understand? If you can't do it in the physical, you could do it in the spiritual. So I just wanted to add that. And as I say, sometimes we as parents, like with my situation, I had to fix me. I can't go tell my children what to do when I myself is not doing it. And most parents do this, huh? They want to correct the children, but you are not doing it. And children have a tendency to very observant, especially the quiet ones.
They learn through observation. Yes.
So we need to do better as parents in order to. So when our children now are ready to get married and they're ready to have a family of their own, they must pick up some good values. They must, or despite what my mother or father went through, they push forward and try their best to do what they could do for us. And they will remember that. And as time go by, it will get better in the generations to come, so. But I really appreciate this. You are so wise, and very insightful. And it's so sad all the children that you have to deal with that goes through this. God alone know. Sometimes your heart just breaks into pieces, but you have to hold it together just to give them some sort of encouragement,
Yes, yes.
but really start. But thank you so much for your wisdom and, trying to build a better community and family life.
Welcome.
Thanks so much.
And what's important, you said something that is so important. If you as a parent, you have not been parented the best by your parents. Your own family, your history, your family dynamics history told you that you let's say you leave that family feeling that you're unworthy, and because of that dynamics, it left you, when you left that dynamic, you came to do your own dynamic with your family. What do you think you're going to bring into this family? The dynamic that you learn. And until you unlearn or until you become more aware, wait now, I am doing the same thing. So maybe that dynamic wasn't so healthy for me. So let me try now and go and get help to address the consequences of being exposed to that unhealthy dynamic, because it will not augur well for my children if I don't deal with it. And most of the times we have to, when a child is in distress, we have to go back to the parent and see what happened to that parent in the past. Something happened to that parent, some dynamic in their family taught them to behave this way. And because that affected that person's mental health, trust me, when they are going to parent, they are going to now pass that, and I don't want to use this term, but I have to, pass that poison down to the next generation. And then you will find, and listen, as it goes down.
Yeah, teacher, hi. I think you've got to put on your camera and we'll put you on focus with her.
Excuse me, and somebody's talking. Yeah, so that poison, or that maladaptive family dynamic pattern or interaction will then be taught to the next generation, and then the next generation. And listen to me, with social media now and all of the external influences, that unhealthy dynamic together with all of that, trust me, your children not going to your children going to develop all sorts of mental health issues and even expose themselves to risk and harm. So we have to, as you rightfully said, we have to start with ourselves and understand and examine in our own little family setting what type of family dynamics that exist. So Keisha is up, so that says something.
Yes, Vicky, it has been really a pleasure. And, personally, I wish that like this session could have started about 5 o'clock this evening, because you have such a wealth of knowledge. And it's not just having a wealth of knowledge, it's relevant, for families, for each of us right now. So I just want to ask you if we could maybe continue this question and answer first thing tomorrow night. If you could start just to complete it, and we could then continue with tomorrow, because tomorrow's topic is so, important: community resources and support. That's what you will be handling tomorrow, and that is what we need also. So I don't know if we could get you to come back another time again after that also. Because we definitely need to have you close to us, Vicky.
And
All
I
right?
am very passionate about the family.
Yeah. And it is so important, because happy families make happy lives, happy communities, and we need it in the church. We're seeing it. We're seeing the need for it also. So, Vicky, I want to thank you so much for your time. When I say time, I have to say I know you have had a long day.
Very long, very
Right?
long.
Your expertise, you have really blessed us tonight. And you have also merely just empowered us. You have actually made us do a lot of introspection, about our own self, our family lives, and the type of family that we grew up in, the things, the dynamics that we want to keep, the dynamics that we want to make sure that we don't push on to our children. So, Vicky, you have encouraged us and helped us to continue nurturing, our children's emotional health, right? And also our
And
family's emotional health.
nurture yourself too, because a
Yes,
lot of parents are in pain still from that family dynamic that they
yes,
experienced in the past.
yes.
So the
So,
pain is still there.
okay. So is it okay if I could ask Sister Yvonne Jennings to come on to just close off in a prayer? That would just be in tune with this whole family dynamics that we had tonight. Thank you so much, Sister
Okay,
Vicky.
let us pray. Kind Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this presentation this evening. We thank you also for this week of mental health awareness that is so necessary, because we realize that mental health is normally at the back burner. But we see in our society now how many people are suffering from mental disease. So we thank you so much for this initiative that we are able to this week learn so much. It has been very informative and instructive by these facilitators who are so knowledgeable and yet so interestingly put across their points. We thank you so much for this evening's presentation by Sister Valley, because we know that the family is the root of the society. And we see that the way things are going, we know that all is not right with our families. We thank you for opening our eyes for us to see that even some of our families that may be, unhealthy, maybe some unhealthy practices, you have opened our eyes to see, and you have given us all the tools that we are able now to improve. We thank you, dear God, for the other presenters as well. I pray for many who, over this week, the presentations this week, have realized or have gained some assistance in dealing with some of their mental problems, be it anxiety, be it depression, anorexia. The list goes on. There are so many mental diseases now that are prevalent. But we thank you, dear God, that you have given us some insight this evening, and we are able to go forward now with knowledge that we are able to impart to others, and that we ourselves can, put into effect in our lives. We thank you at this time. We know that all of this could only be done under the power of the Holy Spirit and with Jesus as the captain of our ship, because he said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." So we thank you, dear God, as we depart from this platform tonight. I pray that we will all have healthy and restful night's sleep, knowing that Jesus Christ is the captain of our ships, and with him we can do all things. He said, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. I ask a special blessing on Sister Valley this night, and for the other presenters, Sister Dr. Castillo, Pastor Sentel, and Ms. Ramla Khan, and the others who are going to follow during this week. We thank you and we praise you. We thank you, dear God, for enlightening us. Be with us tonight. It's my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
See you all tomorrow night as we continue part B of this segment, community resources and support from Vickey tomorrow. So we'll end off with this song, I Am Changed. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night. Good night, everyone. Bye.